Whoa, fish on. It's a good way to start the review. Savage gear. Soft4Play.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to Keeping It Real Fishing. Thanks for checking out the video. Today we're going to be taking a look at this Savage Gear Soft4Play Swimbait. Before we actually get into the bait, I'd just like to mention a few things on Savage Gear. You may be unfamiliar with them. They are kind of coming out of the gates right now. I'm filming this in 2014, and they really hit the US market hard last year in 2013. What I like about Savage Gear, and the reason that I've bought a number of things here, is because I really feel that they're bringing some genuine innovation to the market. Part of my channel's name and just kind of my philosophy towards fishing and things in general, this whole keeping it real, there's a lot of bullshit out there. I was in kind of sales and marketing for a while, and even product design, not of fishing, of other stuff, but it's just pervasive. We've all seen the videos of, you know, the pitchmen saying how, you know, it's the same spiel, right? It's like, oh, it took us a year or two to design this lure, and we've been working on this, and when you look at it, like one little appendage is different. So fishing industry is ripe with bullshit, and people just change mundane features about a lure just so they can release something new every year. We see a lot of this. Savage Gear, on the whole, when you look at their product lineup, they have a couple Me Too products, meaning that it's just kind of something that they're releasing to, you know, have something to sell in that category. But a lot of what they have, I'd say half their products or more, are really different. I mean, genuinely different. And I'll just mention one more thing about that, is not different for the sake of being different. All right, you or I can create a lure that's different. Anybody can. It doesn't mean that it's going to be better. It doesn't mean it's going to be more effective in the water. Different is not the key. The key is to look at something and analyze what's out there, and say, you know what, I can make it different, but it's going to be more effective. It's going to look better. It's going to swim better. It's going to have a better finish. It's going to be more durable. It's going to, whatever, you fill in the blank, but it's going to genuinely be superior to what's on the market, and not incrementally so, by a long measure. And so I think we see some of that here in the Soft4Play. I've picked up a number of Savage Gear things this year just because they have so many cool baits coming out, and I might show a few of those to you a little bit later. But let's focus here on the Soft4Play and look at some of those key features and what makes this lure unique. First things first, let's just take a close look at these guys. I always like to show you guys what these look like, because depending on what site you buy from, sometimes the images could be vastly different. So I'm just going to show you under my lighting here. This is the 5-inch size, and it's a rainbow smolt. This is I believe they call this a perch color. You can see those bands extending to the top. It's a very pungent color. You see, Savage Gear likes to do this different colored tail. I really like that. I think that stands out. No different than, you know, some guys like to dunk the tip of their bait, whatever is, maybe a worm or otherwise, and something like JJ's Magic, like the chartreuse color. Just having the end of your lure, whatever lure it is, the end of it is always going to have the most whip, right, or the most action when you're twitching it or swimming it or whatever the case may be. And so to have that, just the end of it in a little bit of a different color, I think the idea there is that it sometimes can elicit a reaction strike, just because it's something different moving really quickly. I think this is a good color here for stained water. It's a very loud color. There's a lot of contrast to it and difference of colors. This is a great color for clear water, so you can see it's kind of a ghost color. You can see my finger through it. They call it bluegill. Definitely could also pass for a perch imitation. You see that really nice blue up there. The purple, iridescent, that kind of comes and goes depending on how the light's hitting it. This one looks really sweet in the water. Again, these are all the 5-inch size. The larger ones you see here are in a 7 or 7.5-inch size, I forget. And this is a really cool color. This is a baby bass. The bottom here is kind of a pearl iridescent, which is something that, there you go, you can kind of see it there. See how it has that kind of pearl finish? And I didn't really realize that when I saw it online. I saw this in a store near me, and when I realized how nice the finish was, I picked this one up. Originally I wasn't going to. But I've really fallen in love with this color. This one looks amazing in the water. In motion, it looked really just looks like a bass. It's quite incredible. And one little thing to note, you know, they didn't have to, but check that out. They actually put like a little pink, like where the fish would spawn, lay the eggs. It's pretty, you know, does nothing for catching your fish, but just, you know, the attention to detail. Something they didn't have to do, and it's a nice little addition there. So there's our colors. You can see in the hand, this is the larger size. These 7-inch ones come in at about 2 ounces. These smaller ones, I forget the weight on these. I want to say they're about just under an ounce, maybe 7/8 of an ounce, something like that. And you can see the big one's pretty big. It's definitely geared towards your, you're looking for more of a trophy fish with this, and this is a great size for not only bass but all game fish. Let's see. Alright, let's move on to some of the rigging options. Now, one of the things I really do like about this is that Savage Gear has their own proprietary hooks. They actually designed a hook specifically for this lure. This guy right here is a 4/0, and that's a 7/0. Look at the size of that hook. Whoops. That's a really monster hook. But even the smaller one, look at the amount of bite it has. Look at the gap there. It's a huge gap, which it has to be. I guess there was nothing on the market that really had the amount of space necessary, because you figure when you rig this side profile is quite high from top to bottom. So when you put that in there, you need a lot of gap. Which brings me to the next thing I want to talk about, which is actually, here we go, when you have one rigged, I almost wish that these hooks did go a little bit deeper and they were offset even more, because you see how much the hook is exposed, and when you're setting the hook in a fish's mouth, the amount of hook that's coming out of the bottom here is going to be proportional to how much pops out at the top. Alright, so that's a decent amount of bite, and you know, depending on what you hit and how hard you hit it, sometimes it will sail out a little bit more, but in general, what you have on the bottom is what's going to come into contact with the fish's mouth, and what's going to pop out. And so it's adequate, but I think it would be better if these hooks were even wider. If they came down maybe like another 1/4 of an inch. It might look a little funny when you have it out here, but in terms of efficiency, I think it would have been better. Let's talk about one of the shortcomings that I found. Now, when you are reeling this through the water, either size, the small or the large one, what I found that if you use it, this one you can see has weights in it, but pretend that's unweighted. Without any weights, it doesn't always stay upright. Sometimes it does go on its side. I even had it come in kind of upside down one time. So what Savage Gear does, and I'll show you the hooks in the package here, is similar to Sebile. They give you these soft tungsten weights, right? Soft weight system, which is good because it allows you to put those weights at the lowest portion on the bait, the bottom portion here of the hook, which should, you know, keep that down as a keel and the lure swimming the way it should swim. The problem is this, is that on these 7/0 hooks, they're very, not only just big in width, but it's actually quite a wide hook. I mean, physically, it's, the diameter of it's pretty big. And when I tried putting the weights on, this one I got it on, but I actually broke a few on one of my other ones putting them on. They're not metal weights, they are soft, pliable weights, and they actually cracked and split open. So this hook I think is a little bit too big for them, one. Two is that I realized quite quickly that these weights were in the way. And if we look at, say, the bluegill, see that little tiny slit there? And it kind of closes up. Right? So that hook can't really have anything in the way for it to slide in there. It's a very, even though it's carved out a lot, it's narrow here, like it closes back on itself. So when I had these weights on here, the weights would hit that, right? So you get a strike, you set the hook, and the weights would just kind of hit the bottom of the lure. They didn't want to go up into that cavity because this was so narrow, this was pressed together. So in this one, you see it looks kind of ugly. I actually carved that out with a knife just to make space for the weights to be able to sail up in there unimpeded, which obviously you shouldn't have to do. So the next thing I did, and I'm just mentioning all this to you just so you're aware if you decide to get these, they really are great baits, but this is kind of a glitch here. This is a little bit of a shortcoming. I put in these tungsten nail weights. I have one on this side and one on that side. And the good part is that there's enough meat right here. This flap here is quite wide. So there's enough meat to be able to stick a nail weight in there, and it doesn't protrude either on the outside or the inside. It's in there really well. And actually I need to put in another two. This is an eighth. I need to put in another eighth. That would bring it up to what, I guess a fourth? Because in a lure this size, an eighth of an ounce just isn't really enough. But this allows the hook to move up and not be impeded by the plastic. Right? It could go right up there very easily and still have the weight on the bottom, which again you do need, because I found that without it, sometimes it'll swim right, but it's kind of finicky. Sometimes it would go inside. And again, I did see that on both sizes here. Let's move on to what really makes this lure different, and what makes it pretty innovative is the fact that it is two lures in one. And I'm going to show you how that works. The main draw to the Soft4Play, which by the way, in 2011, it won in Europe the equivalent of their iCast. It's like the FTEX Awards. In 2011, it won Soft Plastic Lure of the Year. So just so you guys know, Savage Gear is huge in other parts of the world, and they're really just throwing it all down this year, or last year actually, in the US bass market. So they're coming with a lot of really cool stuff. But the real draw here are these guys, the lip sculls. And what that allows you to do is to convert this from a weedless setup, which is going to be pretty shallow running, into more of a very large, soft-bodied swimbait slash crankbait. And so all you're going to do is, this guy here has a hole in it, right there. So you just put the lure inside, and these lip sculls come with these pins. And you just kind of impale the lure right there, right through it. See, it goes right through. And it holds it really well. It's not going anywhere. It doesn't click or anything like that. It's just pressure fit in there. Just a very tight fit, and holds it really well. These large lip sculls run 5 to 8 feet. And there's a smaller version for these guys. Same deal. Stick it in there. Put this through. And you could take this in and out. I've done this multiple times already. It's not like a LazTech or anything like that where the rubber reseals, but it's just not a big deal. The hole in the rubber itself closes up enough such that you can take it out. Like if you had, say, one bait left, say you lost them all, or whatever, you're doing really well and they're getting chopped up. So you had one left and you were running it in this way, and then you want to fish it weedless, you could absolutely take this out, and then rig it like this, and then go back to the other way. You could do that, quite a bit before you're going to tear up the lure. So this is really what it's all about, is having the two lures in one with this lip scull here. This medium-sized lip scull for these guys runs in the 3 to 5 foot range. A word about these lip sculls. When reeling the lure in its standard configuration, just the standard large wide offset hook, the action is very serpentine. It's very, one of these deals there. And I'll show you some in the water footage here throughout this video. But it's even more so when you use the lip scull. You feel more of that kick and thud coming through your rod, and just visually, it's even more pronounced. They both have it, but you just have more kick when you're using the lip scull. So if you want to put out a little bit more thud, if you want a little bit more aggressive action, the lip scull is where it's at. Of course, you also at that point have an exposed hook, but it's just there is a difference there, in the swim styles. I'm trying to think of one other thing I want to mention here. Rigging the large one with this large hook is difficult. It's not easy to do. Basically, maybe I'll show you on this one here. Oh, while I have this here, I'll just show you. You see that textile in the middle? There's like a cloth thing running through it. You can see it in this one because it's clear, but it's in all the large size ones. I don't know if it's in the small ones. Actually, I know it's not in the small ones. We can see there that it's not. And what that does is just give it some added rigidity. The lure is very robust. I've been using these now in a couple outings. I've had a couple good hits, a couple good fish, and they're just very, very durable. Not to say that they can't be broken up, but they're not weak. They're not fragile at all. And this is just an added measure to give these really large ones some more strength, because these are 2-ounce lures before any of the weights. So when you're heaving these out there, you know, when you first cast, there's a lot of stress put on that joint just from your heaving it. That's just a little extra, little insurance policy to keep everything together, so that's pretty cool. But getting back to the rigging, this is tricky, guys. This is tricky just because of how thick and big this lure is. When you come in like this and you're trying to rig it the traditional way, now this one's easy because it's been bored out a couple times by my doing it, but doing that part is easy. Getting it to there is easy. The hard part is this. It's not like a worm where you could just kind of bend it up and put it where you want to. You can bend the lure in this way, but you can't really bend it going this way. So it's very hard. You could lay the hook alongside of it, you know, like you traditionally would, and you're like, all right, I want the lure to come in here and follow that plane. But then to do that, you know, it just doesn't want to. And the cool thing is you can see from the lure, because it's see-through, it's very hard to get that to go where you want it to go. You can definitely do it, but it's going to take you a minute to really get everything lined up perfectly straight and to get the right plane for that hook so that it pops out as easily as possible and it's not rubbing on too much plastic in there. The smaller bait, just because of the smaller dimensions, it's a lot easier to do, and you can rig these up quite quickly and easily. And as you can see on top, we do have a hook recession. It's pretty narrow, actually. It's only like maybe a 1/16 of an inch, but it's just a little something to protect the tip of the hook there. Alright, let's move on. Oh, by the way, I just want to mention the large ones come 2 to a pack. And you can shop around a little bit, but Tackle Warehouse, I believe it's $9.99. And the smaller ones, you're looking at 3 to a pack. And I think these are $1 cheaper. But if you shop around, you'll find some variability in pricing. The lip sculls, also 2 to a pack on the small size, 2 to a pack on the large size, and you also get 2 of the actual lip sculls and 4 of the little pins that go through them. In this case, I had some green ones, in this case some red ones. Not sure what that's about. Size comparison time. Let's take a look, guys, for some of my fellow swimbait fishermen out there. Here just compared to a pretty large lure. This is also Savage Gear. This is the popular line through 3D trout. That's an 8-inch lure, very robust in not only this respect and this respect, but of course the length. Here's our Soft4Play in the large size. Here's a Huddleston 68 Special. Here's our small size, the 5-inch, and here down the bottom is a Kitech Swing Impact Fat. This is the 4.8-inch size. There's a lot of different lures that are these more generic circular ones. They don't actually have the fish mimicking profile. And like I know Power Team Lures has a swinging hammer. There's a bunch on them. I think Berkeley has one. So you can get a sense of how these lures stack up. Maybe I'll just pick up 1 or 2. See, it's quite... That large size is definitely, like I was mentioning before, you're looking for a really, really big bite. This one here is not too much different in length, although that side profile is a lot flatter, and so it's going to look like a little bit of a bigger meal in the water as it's swimming. Alright, everybody, so that's just a little bit of a size comparison there. Alright, let's wrap this up. Hey man, where'd these guys come from? Just wrapping up here, guys, but I wanted to stress that point that I'm really impressed by Savage Gear. This whole Keeping It Real channel name it's not a bunch of bullshit. You know, I'm just a regular dude, but as I mentioned before, I did work in sales and marketing a little bit, product design, and I really look for different things, and again, not different for the sake of being different, but something that genuinely brings innovation. And in the fishing industry, that could be quite rare. So I really like what I'm seeing with Savage Gear. I put out some other lures here that I got this year. I had to get them. You know, these are really cool products. We have some different designs here on this frog, a 3D crayfish, which, I mean, down to the last little scale and the ends of the feet is a crayfish, because it was actually molded after a living one, and you can see that when you look at these guys up close. I hope to do some in-depth reviews on these pretty soon in the upcoming season. But getting back to the Soft4Play, it's a really cool lure. If you're getting into big swim bait fishing, this is a great way to start. It's not big, but it's a nice segue lure, and you could stay, you know, with, if you like the color schemes and stuff, you could just bump it up to the next size. This 2-ounce version, you can get away with this with some heavy action rods. You don't necessarily have to go with a dedicated swim bait rod. Definitely look at your rod rating, but you can get away with some heavy flipping, pitching, and frogging rods with this, so that's good. The action in the water, in this configuration with the standard weedless setup, is very good. It has that serpentine-like swimming, a little bit more subtle than when we're using one that has the lip scull. Again, this is a little bit of a harder swimming action, but in either instance, it's going to inspire confidence. When you see this in the water, the snaking action, and it looks amazing. And you have that feeling that you're going to get bit at any given time. You're just like, that just looks way too good for a fish not to strike it. And so with the big swim bait fishing, sometimes those strikes are, there's a good amount of time that passes in between them, but every time you throw this out, you have the feeling like you're going to come back with one, and that's reassuring. I'm going to provide a link down in the description, as well as I'm just going to put it right here in the video. If you want to learn more about Savage Gear, they're really making their entrance into the US bass market. If you want to learn more about them, the guy who's creating these lures, and get a better sense of where they're going and what's coming out, definitely check out this link, guys. It's from a guy. He has a site called Bass Dozer. He goes by Russ Bass Dozer, and he is a guru of bass fishing. I'm talking the company's history. He's going to give you information and detail about the people, the lures, manufacturing, just a ton of info. If you're into that kind of stuff, you'll really get to know the lures and the company that you're using. So check that out if you're interested. Alright guys, so that's been the Savage Gear Soft4Play. It's a really cool lure, and if you have any questions, please leave them in the comments and I'll be sure to get back to you. Thanks.
There we go. Fish on. Might have to go to the weedless version. Pretty cool, right? Check it out.
Like changes UV.
Yeah, it's like a see-through. This bluegill color here. But that front part, the lip, is this something that you attach? So you can run it with it or without it. If you don't want a treble hook on the bottom, if you just want it to be like Texas rigged internal. This is what I'm about to do. Whoa, fish on! It's a good way to start the review. Savage Gear, Soft4Play. It's only a couple casts in with the Soft4Play. Just talking about this lip scull feature here, and got it caught up in some grass. Was about to take that off and run it weedless, and right as I hit that grass, this guy got excited. It's in the bluegill color. If I could land this fish, take a closer look. There we go. There we go. Let's take a closer look at this. This is Savage Gear. Three and a quarter, or 3 3/4 rather. $3.15. Alright, it is what it is. Get you back in the water. Whoa, you're ready to go. Got a fish on, boys. It's a muskie. Woo, there it goes. Whoa. Close. There it is. Savage Gear Soft 4Play. That's the large one, all crinkled up. I don't even know what happened there with that hook. Oh, it's disappointing, man. Fish of 1,000 casts. Had them pretty close. I haven't been here but 10 minutes. That was maybe only my 10th cast.